Hey guys, Carlo Filippone here, your muscle chef, ready to talk to you about this guy, the chicken pound. What do we do with the chicken pound? We prepare grilled chicken in different flavors, 6 to be exact. If you're serious about bodybuilding and you meal prep, don't go anywhere else. This is the company for you.
RX Television on RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition, Titan Medical, the Legion Sports Fest, and the Chicken Pound. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the tables. We now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, 2 big things coming up. One right now, at speciesnutrition.com, we have a flash sale on Species Nutrition's LIPOLYZE and SOMALYZE. So if you can expand a little bit more upon that. And then, of course, next weekend, you have your Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course.
Yeah. These are our 2 fat burners. These are the first 2 products I've ever established. Obviously, they've undergone a lot of transformation over the years. But SOMALYZE really hasn't that much. But LIPOLYZE is a stimulant-free daytime fat burner. That means you can take it anytime. It does not make you tired. It doesn't make you wide awake. It revs your metabolism. You'll feel warm on it. You'll sweat on it. I can go into a lot of detail, but I'm not going to do that here. But one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about fat loss is that people who have resistant fat that just doesn't want to go away, people who have appetites that are just insatiable and have a lot of trouble dieting, a lot of times, it's because of leptin. Leptin is a hormone that's released in our brain after we eat. Leptin basically tells the brain, you're not hungry. It tells the body you're not hungry. Okay, but the problem is that the people who are the heaviest, the most obese, have the highest amount of leptin in their body, which doesn't make sense. Why are these people always hungry when they have such high amounts of leptin? It's because their sensitivity to leptin, their receptors for leptin are very low. And that could be a genetic thing. It could be a learned, type of thing due to, always dieting. Doesn't matter what causes it. If you have low leptin sensitivity, you're not going to lose weight. It's going to be very difficult. And one of the ingredients in LIPOLYZE, it's African mango. It's derived from. It's not an ingredient you see in a lot of fat burners. Sensitizes or resensitizes the body to leptin, which makes it easier once again for your appetite to become normal, and for you to lose weight because of that. And so this is one of the things a lot of people really like about the product. Another thing that the product does is it wastes calories. It kind of just causes the muscle cells to leak energy. And when cells leak energy, the only way they can make up for that lost energy is to oxidize and burn more fat to produce more ATP. So those 2 mechanisms alone, in addition to other things, thyroid support and all those other things in LIPOLYZE, make it a very unique formula. And once again, there's no stimulants in it. So you're not going to feel anxious. You're not going to have high blood pressure. You're not going to have rapid heart rate. You don't have to worry about it if you have issues with taking stimulants. Plus, you could take it close to bedtime. You don't have to worry about it. SOMALYZE has been my nighttime sleep aid and fat burner. It has some of the same fat burning ingredients that LIPOLYZE does, except it's a single dose, obviously. And it has melatonin and GABA in it. When I've talked about that before, GABA is very similar to taking Valium or Xanax. What it does is it stimulates the GABA receptors in the brain and it relaxes the body. Most of us have trouble falling asleep at night because we can't relax. Okay, our brain is going a million miles a minute. Usually because you got a lot going on during the day, but it's because you had the phone in front of your face right before you go to sleep, and you're processing too much data, and you're excited because usually before you go to bed, you're looking at your phone, you're looking through things you like. If I like snakes, I'm looking through snakes. If you like bodybuilding, you're looking through bodybuilding. If you like different flower plants, you're looking at those and you're getting excited. So you can't turn your brain off. GABA does that. As a matter of fact, someone just emailed me today. They said, Dave, I took my first dose of SOMALYZE, and as I'm laying in bed, I feel all this tingling all over my body. That's the GABA tingle. When you take GABA and it gets into your body, and it almost has a similar, it has almost like a niacin effect. You feel tingling on your extremities and stuff like that. Sometimes your face feels a little warm. That goes away in about 5 to 10 minutes, but that's how, I like the feeling. That's how you know you're about to fall asleep or you're about to relax, because that's the GABA getting into your body and into your bloodstream. So that's a good feeling. And then there's also melatonin in there, and melatonin's job is to help keep you in a deeper sleep. A lot of people can fall asleep, but their sleep is not deep. They're not getting a restful night's sleep. They're not getting a lot of REM sleep, which is where the brain really repairs itself and reestablishes neural networks, not just in the brain, but mind-muscle, neural, muscular connections as well. So when we train, in order to reestablish and to grow new neural pathways, you have to be in a deep REM sleep. And that doesn't happen a lot. Cats that take cat naps go into a very deep state of sleep. So they can sleep like 10 minutes. It's like they slept 4 hours as far as restfulness and regeneration goes. And that's really what we want as humans as well. The problem is a lot of us just don't sleep. Look, if you're taking drugs like Trenbolone and other stuff like that too, that's going to really keep you from, number one, falling asleep, and it's going to keep you from going into a restful deep sleep. So Somalyze really has an ability to do that. So I decided at least, for the fall, a lot of people diet over the summer. Well, I have a lot of clients who are going away in December for the holidays, and they want to look good on cruises, and they're going to go to Florida and hot places to get out of the cold of the north, and they want to get in shape. So this is like a mini diet time of the year where a lot of people will look to lose weight. I'm working with a lot of people for like maybe 6 to 8 week diets and stuff like that just to get them in shape. And these products really work well with that. So we're giving a super discounted rate. It's $24.99, which is it's almost half price, but for a very limited period of time and while supplies last. So guys, once again, I don't want to hear you crying to me on Sunday. I wanted to buy this stuff, but I just didn't, I didn't know, I didn't go to the site. Go now, buy your stuff, because I'm telling you, if you wait, you are not going to get this stuff. It's going to run out. When we do these crazy sales, okay, people buy this stuff up very quickly. If you spend over $100 on the site, you get free shipping. So you might want to throw a couple fibers in there too if you're dieting. Somalyze, LIPOLYZE, Fiberlyze, maybe put some Isolyze in there too to kind of substitute some of your meals so you can keep your carbs a little lower. That's the way to go. Give it a shot, guys. It's a great deal, but for a limited time only.
Let's go to the questions.
Oh, I said now I got it. She hit me with 2 questions. Now the second thing is my Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course. That's my 10-hour class I'm holding here in Cape Coral, Florida. Not this Saturday, the following Saturday, October 26th. I only have 2 spots left. Okay, so I know people are out there listening. They probably heard me talk about this a million times, and they're saying to themselves, you know what? I should really go out there and do it. This is the time of year. It's downtime. There's not much going on. I am a coach, or I want to become a coach. I want to educate myself. I want to further my education. The great thing about taking a course like this is if you're a coach and you're making good money, this is a tax write-off for you. You could take the $750 that it costs you to take the 10-hour class, where you're going to learn a tremendous amount of information down here, plus your flight or hotel if you have to fly down here if you can't drive, and you write it off your taxes. It's education. I have a lot of trainers that come and take it every single year. I'm like, you guys are back? They're like, yeah, it's a tax write-off. We'd like to come down to Florida. When it gets cool out, we hang out at Florida. We go take your class for the day. And so you could almost make a mini vacation out of it, and it could be a write-off for you. So a lot of people don't know you can do that. But look, if you're making money as a coach, you better be paying taxes because the IRS will come after you. That's one of the things I talk about in the class too, how to make a business out of what you're doing. And once again, if you go to DavePalumbo.com and sign up, there's 2 spots left, and that's going to be a week from this Saturday, October 26th.
So with that, we'll go to the questions. The first 2 questions, of course, in the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, when you would do a drop set or supersets, would you plan to do all workouts for that week to include it, or just decide once you were in the gym that day and I want to do one?
Yeah, sometimes I'll just throw it in. I would throw it in just randomly, do a superset or drop set or giant set or something like that. But I did go through periods of training where I would do like maybe 8 weeks of superset workouts. So every time I was in the gym, I was supersetting or giant setting. So I might do leg extensions and then go right to the leg press machine. Or I might do squats and then go right to the leg extension machine. Or I might do, one of the hardest supersets I ever did was squats over to the leg curl machine. Then back to, then you go, and by the time you get to the next squat, you can't even lower the weight because hamstrings are really important in lowering. So if you're doing curls right after you're doing squats, it's a tough one. The ones I like the best are usually bicep, tricep. Bicep curl, dumbbell curls or cable curls, and then go to reverse grip pull downs or overhead extensions. But I would do those for 8 weeks, and then I would switch back to conventional, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, your body doesn't respond anymore. So I know on the app, my Dave Palumbo Experience app, for instance, we have, I think, how many workouts, Sid, is it up to now?
So we have 8 months now of weekly workouts in the app.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, 8 times, 8 months, so it's figure 4 months. So that's, that's like 32 workouts already up there. So every week we put up a new workout on the Dave Palumbo Experience app. So if you guys are members, not only do you get access to all the videos and all the articles I've ever written and the special exclusive Q&A video I do for the app members, and not only do you get the ability to ask me unlimited questions on the app that gets put in a general forum so everyone sees the questions and answers, but you also get a workout up every single week that you guys can follow. If if people get bored of doing the same thing, it gives you the ability to have some versatility, I guess you could say. So, that's something you might look into if that interests you.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. What would you do different for a beginner mass cycle than the advanced cycle that you have outlined? And that's in reference to the anabolic mass gain cycle that you have in the app.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we had the beginner cycle, but I might not have. My beginner cycle is pretty, I've talked about it a lot. I like to do like compounds that don't aromatize, compounds that have very little toxicity and side effects, and that's like your Winstrol, Anavar, Primavol. I kind of shy away from Primavol these days because of the fact that, there's a lot of fake Primavol out there. But Anavar, Winstrol, seems to be the good beginner cycle. They're pills. You could take, you don't have to take shots. There's very little side effects associated with them. Maybe like 25 milligrams per day of Winstrol, 30 milligrams per day of Anavar. Do that for, 10 to 12 weeks. Good first cycle. For women, women can do like just one of those. They can do like 10 milligrams a day of Anavar, for a first cycle. Or they can do, 10 milligrams a day of Winstrol for a first cycle. They don't even necessarily have to combine two things. But once again, you start light. Put on some muscle, and then once you hit some plateaus and you get a feel for what it's like to take anabolics, then you can make the decision if you want to take it to the next level. That's a personal decision, of course, but there's no reason to take compounds that aromatize initially, because why do you want to deal with PCT and all the craziness? You could do like an Anavar Winstrol cycle, and then at the end of the cycle, you can just take like my Testalize product, 3 pills twice a day. It's natural. It'll balance your hormones of DHT, estrogen, and testosterone in favor of testosterone, obviously. And you're done. You're done. It makes it easy. There's no reason to have to do anything crazy. And then if some point down the road you say, hey, I want to take it to the next level, I'm willing to deal with side effects, I'm willing to deal with having to counteract estrogen production and all that stuff, then you go for that. But this is a good way to start.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, our handle is official_RXMuscle. Good one here from Retro Muscle Mags. What was your favorite bodybuilding magazine growing up?
The first magazine I ever bought was Muscle and Fitness. And I thought it was a little less intimidating, and I thought it had a lot more good articles in there because I was really I was trying to educate myself as to what to do because I didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't know how to eat, train, all that stuff. So I did that first. Then I kind of morphed over to Flex magazine, and I started trying to learn who the bodybuilders were. Some of those bodybuilders were in Muscle and Fitness. And then I got into that a lot. And then actually, believe it or not, the magazine that I really liked the most, believe it or not, was Muscle Mag. Because it kind of had a lot of instructional training articles where you'd actually have to sit there and read it like 400 times because they would actually explain and hold your arm here, but they didn't show really a lot of pictures. So you had to kind of like visualize in your brain how to do it. But I liked that. And it had a lot of gossip in there too, which was good. And from there, I think those are the main magazines. I bought Muscle Mag and Flex initially. I don't know if Muscular Development was. They were like really Twin Lab, oriented. I remember, and I didn't get into that magazine right away. Muscular Development I got into a little later, and then I started working for them, obviously. But I didn't really buy Muscular Development that much. Iron Man I would buy every once in a while, but to me, it wasn't that user friendly. I liked like Lonnie Teeper's article. I always loved it. Ruth Silverman, I liked her article too, and Jerry Frederick's Hot Shots, I used to love that. But I thought Muscle Mag had more meat and potatoes in it back in the day when Bob Kennedy was really invested in that magazine.
Let's go to D-Rock P87. Do pro bodybuilders actually use creatine? It's one of the only supplements proven to actually work, but since pros are on lots of gear, I'd be curious to know if they even bother with creatine.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, also, I forgot, later into the 90s, or in the mid-90s, I really liked Muscle Media 2000, Bill Phillips magazine. I completely blocked it out. That actually became my favorite magazine. But in the early, like late 80s, early 90s, it was those other magazines. Then when Bill Phillips came out with Muscle Media, I almost didn't even want to read anything else, because Bill Phillips was the first person to talk about drugs, supplements, for real. Matter of fact, he wouldn't even take supplement ads unless he tested your products and they came out, to be up to snuff. I thought it was a brilliant idea on his part. So I just wanted to throw that in. Now, what was the next question, Sid?
Let me go back to it. Oh yeah, whether or not pro bodybuilders use creatine when they're using lots of gear. Yeah.
Yes, I think they do. A lot of times with older guys who might have compromised kidney function, I don't recommend creatine because I think it puts a little bit of a strain on the kidneys. But on people who are young and upcoming and want to put muscle on, especially off season, I have everyone add 5 grams to their post-workout shakes, male and female usually. Now, creatine does make you hold a little extra fluid, but that intracellular, not subcutaneous, which is under the skin. Intramuscular or intracellular means inside the muscle cell. That volumizes and swells, makes the cells swell. It's going to make you look bigger. You're going to get great pumps, but it's going to make the cells very anabolic. And that's what I like about it. The problem with creatine, and the most absorbable form, is still to this day monohydrate, creatine monohydrate. The problem with it is getting it to be solubilized. In other words, getting it into solution. Because if it just sits in the water and kind of falls to the bottom of the glass, you don't absorb the stuff. It kind of goes right through your intestinal tract and you poop it out and it gives you diarrhea. So the key is to make the stuff be able to mix in solution. And the best way I found to do it really was, even though it's a little grosser this way, number one, you got to get a very good micronized creatine. We actually make one from Species Nutrition, and it's ultra micronized. So we take the micronization, or the micronized creatine, which is basically, they take the creatine granules and they grind it up into like a fine powder. We take that, and then my manufacturer does it again. So if you look at the micronized, ultra micronized creatine that we make, Creolyze, it actually is almost like baby powder, and it mixes much more easily that way. I used to mix it, seriously, with like warm grape juice. So a lot of times I tell people to just throw it in your post-workout shake, but if you want to be hardcore, you get some grape juice, you let it sit at like room temperature, or you heat it up in the microwave. It's even better. And you make it it almost tastes like tea. And then I would put a scoop of the 5 grams of creatine, mix it, because warmer water will help solubilize the creatine better. And I would gulp that down, maybe in like 4 ounces or something, 3 ounces. And then I would drink my post-workout shake. Or I would do it in the morning like that, and then post-workout I would drink the post-workout shake and then do another serving of Creolyze. So you can do 5 to 10 grams a day. And once again, understand that when you go for blood work, your creatinine levels may be higher just because they're reading some of the waste products of the creatine you're taking. The best solution I tell people is, if you're going to go for blood work, don't take your creatine for like a week before, so you get an accurate assessment of what your kidney function is.
So to Caustic Demir, which mandatory poses do you consider are the easiest and the hardest to master?
I always found that the lat spread was the most difficult, because it's not really a flexing pose, it's a relaxing pose. You're just kind of rolling your lats open. So many people want to flex into it. They see Ronnie Coleman used to hit a most muscular when he would hit his lat spread. I've never seen anything like it. His lats are so big that it didn't matter. It just looked uncomfortable for him. It's a relaxing pose. You're just opening up your scapula. And if you try to put too much pressure, to flex them open, it usually just doesn't allow them to open properly. And I see a lot of people screwing that pose up because it is a relaxing pose. It's not a flexing pose. The way I wound up mastering it is, I couldn't do it, right? And then what I did was I was teaching other guys how to pose in the off season when I wasn't competing, so I had no stress. I had no, I wasn't even thinking about it, and I was just going through the motions because I didn't want to keep hitting the pose over and over. And I realized that while just demonstrating to people how to hit it, I was opening my lats up way more than I ever did before. And that's when it struck me like, but it's a relaxing pose. So that's a much more difficult pose. I don't think anyone has a problem hitting a double bicep pose. The biggest mistake people make when they hit the double bicep pose is they hold their hands up too high. And they don't realize when you do that, you narrow your lats. Okay, you're losing lat width when your hands are up too high. Likewise, you don't want to have your hands down too low because then it ruins the symmetry. You want your arms equal, and you want your fist should be equal with your ears, essentially. Let me see. I'm a little cockeyed here. Cockeyed camera. So that's how it should be. You don't want to be doing this because you narrow your lats, and you don't want to be doing this, which I see sometimes people do too. Now, before I had my shoulders done, I was like this because I couldn't externally rotate because I had painful shoulder joints, and I see that a lot in older bodybuilders too because they do have shoulder issues. They can't externally rotate. If you can't externally rotate, that's why there's a terrible picture of me floating around the internet of me like almost like my eyes bugged out like from the stage. And it was because, and my stomach is all weird, because I was in so much pain hitting that pose all the time on stage, I couldn't externally rotate. I had to almost force my body into an uncomfortable position. Now I can hit the pose because I have, like I said, I don't have any pain in my joints anymore. So I think that's a mistake people make. But there's a lot of nuances about posing, that you don't have to be, I was never the world's best poser, but I understand how to pose so I can explain to other people. I think a lot of people also make a mistake when they hit the side chest. They think they got to hold their hands up here. That doesn't look right because what's happening is the symmetry of your body is off. When you hit a side chest, first of all, you want to show your obliques, okay? Secondly, you want to have this down by your waist because you want to have an equal upper and equal bottom so you have good symmetry. If you're up here, it kind of cuts your body off at a weird angle. So you got to kind of play with it. And I've seen guys who are great bodybuilders on stage and they just don't hit these poses right. I know they can hit them better, but you try to give advice to someone who's placed in top 6 at the Olympia, they're like, fuck you, who cares? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I remember when I first was working with Evan Centopani, he used to hit the side chest pose. Rather than like this, he would hit it like this, okay? It was like a weird thing. Like he thought his bicep looked bigger, but it wasn't, I was trying to explain to him it was a chest pose. So he wouldn't listen to me. And then Jim Mannion came up to him and said, hey, Evan, what are you hitting your pose like this for? You got to hold your hand like this, And then he did it, of course, and then changed it. But so a lot of people make a lot of mistakes with posing because they think something looks better. But if you talk to someone who's seasoned, who knows, a thing or two about body positioning and aesthetics on stage, Chris Cormier is great with that as well. I mean, he really understands how to, position your body on stage. Milos is good with it too. You got to listen to people who understand what they're talking about. Don't think you know more than everyone else, and posing just comes down to practice too. People don't want to practice. That's why you don't start posing and learning how to pose 4 weeks before a show because you're miserable and you're hungry and you don't want to do it. You do it in the off season. You learn to pose so that when the time comes to get ready for a show, you're just going through the motions and getting posing endurance down. You're not learning how to do the poses. It's very hard to learn new things when you're miserable, okay? Trust me.
Show Aesthetics is asking a question that quite a few people have been asking us, and that is whether or not we are going to get Fouad and Luke Sandoe on an upcoming episode of Iron Debate with Lee Priest.
Lee and I asked him again this the second week in a row, where are you guys? What's going on? I thought you were coming on. The funny thing is that Fouad always wants to come on the show with us, and I love having him on, and we always get him on when we have good topics because I know he's controversial and I know Luke Sandoe loves to come on when he comes on too. So I don't know what's going on. I asked them, they had a couple excuses. They were going to do it. Luke was going to do it, and then Fouad couldn't make it, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to beg people to come on the show. I'll get him on. We'll talk about that one topic about which is 90s versus current bodybuilders. And then we can talk about something else too, because I think it's a good group. Lee, myself, Luke, and Fouad are all very opinionated guys in our own way. So I think that would be a good debate, even if we did multiple topics. So they're invited. I love them. I love all three. Well, Lee, obviously, and I get along really well. But I love Fouad and I love Luke. I think they're great guys. I can't wait to get them on.
Let's go to Chris Angeletti. Interesting one here. If Dorian never got hurt, forcing early retirement, how would the 98 Olympia have shaken out in your opinion?
Dorian says he would have won. Dorian thought he was going to win even though he got hurt. If he could have gotten back his range of motion quicker. But I don't know. Ronnie was amazing. But people forget Dorian was really good. Now here's the issue. This would have been Dorian at the end of his career versus Ronnie even though Ronnie was older, it was still the beginning of Ronnie's career because he had just started looking amazing. So I think Dorian would have had a tough time beating Ronnie at that 98 Olympia. Although size-wise, I think they would have matched up well. And even though Ronnie was ridiculous, Dorian had a better back still. Dorian's, taper was really, really impressive too. His quarter turns might have been better than Ronnie's. Ronnie had some freak factor going through him, from the back double bicep on that glute shot. It was ridiculous for Ronnie, but Dorian had that crazy back. I think that Ronnie could have won the back double maybe, but Dorian certainly, absolutely would have won the rear lat spread. I think that Dorian had a better side tricep, which is one of his best poses. Ronnie, that was a weak pose for him. Dorian had a really good ab thigh shot. Ronnie's most muscular probably would have beat Dorian's because Dorian really couldn't hit the most muscular because he had the torn bicep, so he would hit it with the hands together. So I think it would have been close. And you know what? Dorian would have been the reigning Mr. Olympia, so it would have been really tough for Ronnie to unseat him. Also, you got to think about the fact that because if Dorian says he was competing, maybe the guys would not have trained as hard because, they trained really hard for that 98 Olympia because they knew there was a vacant title. Now, I don't think that would have changed how hard Ronnie trained because Ronnie always trained hard, but it certainly would have been good. And you know what? If Dorian would have won the 98 Olympia, would he have won 99 too? Okay, but once again, it's all about staying healthy. And Dorian was getting a lot of injuries toward the end of his career, which was making his body not look quite as good as it should have because he couldn't train the way he needed to. So we'll never know. It's great to speculate, but that would have been a great one for sure.
Let's go to Escobar Season. Your thoughts and opinions on IV vitamins for gut health on top of fiber and probiotics.
I don't know what IV vitamins he's referring to. Is he talking about like glutathione? I mean,
I would imagine so. Any sort of IV treatments in comparison to fiber and probiotics.
I don't know for gut health. I mean, for me, if you have like any kind of like colitis or anything like that affects the gut lining, oral glutamine is really good. Oral. The reason being is because the intestinal cells steal it up. It never gets into the bloodstream, and they use that for regeneration purposes. Also, a good probiotic, obviously, whether it be from a fermented food like, say, Bubby sauerkraut, which I'm big on, or you can go to the customprobiotics.com or some of these probiotic sites where you can actually buy strains of bacteria that you're going to add to your meals. That helps build up the gut health as well. I don't really know if vitamins per se are going to help with gut health. To me, gut health has a lot to do with the probiotics that we take because these bacterial organisms build up layers on top of in the inside of your colon, okay? And they actually create a barrier. The reason the colon gets weak and gets, ulcerated and gets all kinds of issues or leaky gut and allows toxins in is because that barrier, gets compromised. The barrier is made up of bacteria. So if you destroy that bacterial layer because you're not repopulating it, or you're taking a lot of antibiotics, or you're taking things that irritate or change the pH of your gut, okay, that will destroy that barrier and that will open up and allow your body to be vulnerable to the toxins that come through your body. Because let's face it, anything you orally ingest has access to your body through the colon if it's not properly lined with these probiotic organisms. So it's a good idea to take a fermented, product like a kefir or I use a coconut kefir once in a while, but I really like the Bubby sauerkraut because I actually like the taste of it. I actually drink the juice. I don't know if it's in like this salty brine, but that's where all the bacteria are, the good bacteria. I'll actually take a couple shots of it. It doesn't bother me. But really, just if you eat the sauerkraut, you could do that as well. It's teeming with probiotics, and that's something that's really important to not take, to take for granted because, you can go from having great digestion to having crappy digestion overnight just by doing one course of antibiotics. And let's face it, every once in a while you got to do antibiotics. You get an infection, you get a strep throat or something like that, or for whatever reason people need it for, and that can completely set you back, especially if you have a vulnerable colon to begin with.
Let's go to Drew Hewitt. Can KLENN be taken with high blood pressure? What's the best, or I guess, in a scenario with high blood pressure, what would your recommended dosing protocol be?
The funny thing about clenbuterol is it actually drops your blood pressure. So I always found that when I was competing and taking clenbuterol, my blood pressure was always really good because it lowers blood pressure because it opens up the blood vessels. So that's it's an interesting conundrum. It's actually a good supplement in that sense to take. People think that KLENN is really bad for your heart because they read these things about cardiotoxicity. Clenbuterol really is not bad for you. The problem is with KLENN is if you take too much in one dose, let's say you're taking 120 micrograms a day, you work up to it. But if you're taking it all in 1 or 2 dosages, it's too much. So you open your blood vessel walls up so much, you lower your blood pressure so much that your heart has to now beat faster to compensate to keep blood pressure going at an optimal level. And so a lot of times you feel those palpitations, you feel the rapid heart rate. That's being caused by you, not by the drug. The drug dropped your blood pressure, and now your heart is trying to compensate. If you take only 20 micrograms at a time of clenbuterol and spread it out throughout the day, you're not going to get those drastic drops in blood pressure, and you're not going to get the compensatory side effects that come along with it in terms of like rapid heart rate and stuff like that. So just be smart about it. And you know what? I tell my clients this. I have clients, I tell them this all the time. Don't combine the doses. Take 20 per time. And then they'll send me an update and they're like, because I always ask how many you're taking. They'll be like, yeah, I'm taking 60 in the morning and 20 at night. I said, didn't I tell you not to take 60 at a time? Only take 20 at a time. Oh, okay. And then 2 weeks later, I'll see it again. Oh, I forgot. Well, I mean, how many times do I have to tell you this? It's not about convenience. It's about how the drug works best. Spread it out. Spread it out. 20 micrograms per dose. I have people who are super sensitive to KLENN. We do 10 micrograms per dose and spread it out because otherwise they just get crampy or they get too irritable on it or shaky, whatever. Everyone's different, Less is better spread out.
Let's go to Muscles Marinara. What's the best needle size for intramuscular testosterone injection and the best area of administration?
It's a good question, but it really has to do with where you're putting it. So if you're putting it in your glutes, which is a really thick muscle, you can go deep, with a bigger gauge syringe. You can go with a 22 gauge syringe, 1.5 inches, and I recommend that. If you're going into your delts, which is a slightly smaller muscle, now when I was doing it in my delts, I had huge delts. I could do 1.5 inches, 22 all day long. But most people will go with a 23 gauge 1 inch in the delts. Lats, you can do the 22 inch. It's like butter going in. I mean, it's easy. If you're doing let's say now you're doing body parts, like you're doing maybe biceps or something like that, with a smaller muscle like that, you probably want to go 1 inch once again. Anything less than 1 inch is probably too little. I know guys that do insulin syringes, and what happens is you wind up getting scar tissue at the top right there. It bubbles up. Sometimes it comes out of the muscle, goes under the skin, it gets irritated. Biceps, you can do like a 25 gauge 1 inch, but once you start going to those smaller syringes, and with syringes, the higher the number, the smaller the opening of the syringe. So it's going to take a lot longer to push in. Try to push 1.5 cc through a 25 gauge. It takes a long time. It's almost like you want to kill yourself. It's very aggravating. Sometimes it clogs. So you're better off going with a bigger syringe. If you're using a fresh needle, it shouldn't really hurt anymore. It should go in pretty simply. Just don't reuse the syringes. Look, one of the biggest things I don't know why I did it. I don't know if it was cheap or if I was lazy. I would use, if I'm taking 4 shots or I was spreading around my shots, I would use the same syringe 4 times. And what happens is, after you stick it in once, the tip of that syringe, if you ever look at it under a microscope, it's like completely bent. Okay, so you're gonna damage more tissue every time you stick that thing back into your body. That's just the way it goes. So if you can afford it, or if you have access to a lot of syringes, you're better off using a new syringe every time you stick something in your body. Plus, it's a lot more sanitary.
Let's go to Team 2 Rip. You think the amateur and the pro classic weight, classic physique weight classes should be the same or closer together? Someone can turn pro in classic one weekend and get on a pro stage the next. Makes sense. They should be the same.
I agree. I don't know why they're different. I don't see why that they would be different whatsoever. It's not like Little League versus Major League Baseball where they use a bigger bat, or soccer where they have a bigger ball. If you're in the pros, versus when you're a kid, they have a little ball. It's not like that. I mean, you should be able to go from one to the other, like you're saying, and it should be the same weight classes all across the board. That's just I don't know why it's more in the pros, because what you're doing is you're creating a gap so that when you leave the amateurs, now you have to first start gaining weight before you get into the pros, because the pros have a much higher weight class allowance. So I don't know. Maybe they'll change it. It doesn't make sense to me either.
Let's go to Bilal Hamide. Shoulder pain whenever I train chest or shoulders. My form is really good, but had the pain since I started, subsides the next day. Anything else you could pinpoint as far as why I would be having shoulder pain while working chest or shoulders?
Look, there's a million things that can be going on. More than likely, a lot of people have what's called an impingement syndrome. I had that. I had it to the point where I needed surgery to open up, open up the area. What happens is the infraspinatus and the long head of the bicep tendon run up into your shoulder through a tunnel, basically. And this tunnel, sometimes there's a bony ridge there. I happen to have bony acromial processes. And that bone was sticking into the gap there and limiting the space that the tendons have, so the tendons rub on that bone, and it causes tendonitis chronically because they're always rubbing and always rubbing and always rubbing. And if you don't do anything about it, a lot of people say, "Well, you don't have to fix it." Well, if you continue to train, even though you feel like a pinching on the tendons every time you try to do bench, it's like something's catching. It's like catching on something. The problem is if you keep doing it, eventually the tendons are going to tear. You're going to get a rotator cuff tear, or you're going to get a bicep tear. So what they do is they go in there and they actually sand down the acromial process a little bit and make that tunnel open more so the tendons can run freely and they're not going to rub against anything and they're not going to tear. In some people, when they go in there, the bicep tendon is so afraid, a lot of times they'll just relocate it, meaning that they'll disconnect it from where it is and they'll drill it into your femur bone, which is actually a better, safer location because it's not going through that little tunnel anymore. That's called a bicep tenodesis surgery. And they can do that through an arthroscope now, so they don't have to open up your shoulder to do that. So you can get a cleanup and they can do a bicep tenodesis at the same time. And the recovery is not too bad. It's like 6 weeks. So if it's bothering you, I would go get an X-ray. The good thing about the impingement syndrome is it can be diagnosed on a simple X-ray. You don't really need to go for an MRI. They can see the bone and they can see if it's impinging on that tunnel. And if it is, and you're serious about bodybuilding and you want to take it to the nth degree, you're probably going to need to get the surgery, at some point. You can do physical therapy, you can take anti-inflammatories, you can do DECA, but if there's a physical blockage there, it's got to be opened up.
So last question, we're going to combine two different questions. One was, are you going to be doing any more day in the life videos? And then two, interesting one here, why don't you make all your YouTube videos and turn them into podcasts? So I guess with all the different podcast platforms, even if they're audio only, if that's a thought.
You know what? It's a matter of manpower and work. We just have too much that needs to be done with too little people working here. And if it was worth it financially, where we were making a lot of money, and I could financially say, okay, let's podcast everything up. Great, I don't think it's gonna increase revenue. I think a lot of people would see it as, hey, this is great. We can listen to it, but I don't think it's going to be financially worth us spending that extra time to do it. And that's really why we don't do it. What was the other thing he asked me about what we should do?
Day in the life videos.
Oh, I like to do those. The problem is we do so much filming that I don't know when I'm afraid I look like a complete nutcase if I do a day in the life. If Tyler followed me around with the camera leading up to all the stuff we do here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we film mostly on 2 days, people would think I was nuts because I run around like a maniac. And, from holding babies to running downstairs to see my steaks to running out to picking up packages outside to taking my son to school and back and the gas station and I have to stop at the supermarket. I go to the bagel store. I don't think people would find it interesting. Maybe they would. I don't know. But if I have to have another level of filming involved, I think I might go out of my mind. So once in a while we'll do it like a day in the life. Like I really want to go see my friend Tom Crutchfield has like a farm in Homestead, Florida, and he has all these reptiles and venomous snakes and cobras. And it's kind of on the way to I could probably go to Boca first and then go there. Maybe Tyler and I will take a road trip one day and I'll go see Aaron at Redcon. I'll go see some of the people, Flex's Gym, the Dragon's Lair in Boca. I'll go see Tom, in Homestead. We'll film that with some, crazy, reptiles. And that'll be, and the road trip itself will be fun. But I can't do it all the time. If I stop doing all the programming like we're doing now, like Ask Dave and I Am Debate and Muscle in the Morning, then I could fill my day every single day. Maybe people would find that more interesting. I don't know, But right now, I think it's important, and Sid and I have sat and had multiple discussions about this, that, look, we can do what all these other sites do, but what we do best is we provide information, and we provide information that people value as being something that they can listen to, that has merit, that has validity to it, that has, when we do analysis of shows, that people take, seriously, that the hardcore fan really appreciates. And I don't want to give that up right now, at least, because just to do fluff, what I call fluff material, which is basically like, reality TV. Yeah. So, we're balancing. We're trying to balance, but I will try to do some more day in the life stuff, because I know people like that. I do throw some stuff on my Instagram, feed there, just for people to see if I go pick my son up at school and he's doing funny stuff. But we'll try to incorporate, maybe once a month, we'll try to do a day in the life video, just so people have some updates on what I'm doing on a daily basis, and they can see how crazy my life is. Maybe people like that. I don't know.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Special thanks to Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo. Reminder, right now at SpecieNutrition.com, LIPOLYZE and SOMALYZE on sale, $24.95 each, limited time sale only. Again, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.